Welcome to Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. My name is Reika and I am your host. I hope you are having a great day as you are listening to this podcast. And this time of the year, end of November to December, I think as a yoga teacher, it's a slightly off season of the year in terms of a lot of our class numbers may go down. A lot of people are on vacation or they are busy with going to holiday parties, hosting families, or maybe traveling to go see families. And a lot of us are busy with events, but then there's also a lot of us who have complicated feelings around this time of the year. So yeah, it always feels kind of off to me this time of the year. And I almost want to hermit and not come out of my cave or hole until January. And it's really hard to plan things in December. So anyway, feels kind of off. So if you are also feeling weird and off during this time of the year, I just want to say that you are not alone in feeling that way. So I hope this podcast can bring you some joy or something interesting to listen to during this sometime joyful but sometime weird time of the year. So if you are a new listener to this podcast, I want to say welcome. Thank you for choosing to press play to tune into this week's podcast episode. And if you are a returning listener, I want to say thank you for coming back. Thank you for continuing to come back and listen to this podcast. I saw on Instagram that a couple of the listeners have posted that Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast made it to their top 5 or whatever Spotify rap. So I am so happy, delighted, honored that you choose to listen to this podcast. I know there are so many amazing podcasts to listen to, and I am an avid podcast listener myself. So if I can be on the list of your regular podcasts you've been listening, that makes me really happy and honored. So thank you. Before I get started on today's interview, I want to talk a little bit about my mentorship program. So the mentorship program for yoga teachers is a program I've been running. It's an ongoing program that I've been running for, 5 or 6, 7 years. I don't know. I should actually look back and see how many years I've been running it. But it's one of my favorite things to run, to facilitate, build this container of beautiful community of yoga teachers. I think a lot of people finish their 200-hour teacher training and they just are set free out in the world and sometimes feel lost. Whether you feel lost because the community of fellow yoga teachers in your 200-hour teacher training program, you don't have that container anymore after you graduate from 200. You want to ask questions to other yoga teachers who's been doing this for a long time, but you don't really know who to ask. You feel shy about reaching out to some of your yoga teachers. You wish there was other fellow yoga teachers that you can share your exciting news and challenges with. And that's kind of what this mentorship program has become. It's a support system, it's a community, it's a family of yoga teachers that we are growing together, we're learning together, and we're all trying to become a better human being, better yoga student, and also a skillful yoga teacher. In the container of the mentorship program, I offer continuing education opportunities. So once a month, I bring in an expert or a specialty teacher to lead a workshop on a specific topic. And we also have monthly yoga sutra studies. So I've been leading yoga philosophy discussions every month for my mentorship program. And typically, I bring teachings from Yoga Sutras of Patanjali and we talk about it. But what's going to be a little bit different starting in 2026 is that we are going to start sutra studies or sutra circle, they might call it. So we're going to go through each sutra, one sutra by one sutra for the first 2 chapters over the next how many month it's going to take us to do that. So it could be a year, it could be 2 years, who knows? But that's kind of the plan for the future is we are going to start the sutra study where we go through each sutras by sutras. And even if you join in the middle, like for example, maybe you joined in the module 2 instead of module 1, just know that you still have the access to the previous recordings from the Sutra study, so you can still catch up to date wherever you join from. We also have monthly pranayama meditation class. We also have a practice teaching session that you can practice teaching online, and we give each other feedback. I give you feedback. The fellow yoga teachers who come to take your class will give you feedback. We also have book club. We read a book. We take 4 months to finish a book, and we meet once a month to talk about each sections of the book that we've been reading to. And I also offer 101 session with everybody who's part of my mentorship program once a module. There's a lot of good stuff in this mentorship program that I'm very, very excited about. It's hybrid learning style, meaning you can join from any time zones. Not everybody in my mentorship program is local to Long Beach, California, which is where I live. I have people from different countries and different states, different time zones. So every meeting, most of the meeting is happening on Zoom live, but you can watch the recording later if you miss it. But when we do meet in person for the monthly workshop where I bring in guest teachers and guest teachers from this area, then we meet in person. I live stream and Zoom people in. So even though it's a live workshop, you feel like you're still part of the workshop. You're still there in real time, be able to ask questions, be able to interact with one another because you're there through Zoom, and you still get to interact and meet the guest teachers. And the workshop is recorded, so you can also watch the recording later for that as well. I want to share a little bit about the upcoming guest teachers for Module 1 of 2026. We have Diana May, who has come to this podcast twice already. She is coming back 2 times this module to teach about pain science and yoga, as well as a little bit more of the business side of yoga. If you remember, I interviewed her for the second time on my podcast for her to share about her tremendous success in growing her Instagram. And I thought it would be cool if she can share a little bit about that in the second workshop. And then I also have Amy Echo. She also came on the podcast previously. She is my teacher that I love and I have a huge respect for and I admire. I am so inspired by her. So Amy Echo is another guest teacher for this upcoming module where she's going to teach us about philosophy and the prana and the subtle layers of yoga. And last guest for module 1 of 2026 is Casey. And Casey was also on my podcast. I interviewed him because he is my meditation teacher. He comes from Buddhism background. He's not a yoga asana teacher, but he has tremendous knowledge in Buddhism and meditation and mindfulness. And I wanted to bring him on to talk and share a little bit about Buddhist philosophy. There's Eightfold Path in Buddhism, and I thought it'll be cool to have a workshop where he teaches us about Eightfold Path, and we could have a discussion around the similarities and differences that exist between 8 limbs of yoga and Eightfold Path in Buddhism. So super excited for all this upcoming workshop, and I am always so grateful and honored for every single guest who choose to dedicate their time out of their life to come teach for my mentorship program. I hand select everybody who come, and I choose people that I have a huge respect for. I choose people who can bring in knowledge and expertise that I cannot. And I love the collaboration and partnership that happens from it. And it's so wonderful that we get to learn so much from other experts in the field. And I hope this also creates a connection. So after you get to study a little bit with the guest teacher, you get to know who they are. Maybe you can reach out to them for their services, or you can ask them questions from their expertise. So I'm hoping to kind of build connections and community around that. All that to say, join my mentorship program. The application for 2026 Module 1 is open. I tried really hard to make this mentorship accessible financially for yoga teachers. So the mentorship is $45 a month, and you pay the 4-month at once. So meaning it'll be $180 for the whole 4-month of mentorship. I do have a little bit of discount for people who want to sign up for the whole year, just because I do have people who's been part of my mentorship program for a couple of years now. So I want to offer something that is a once-off payment with a little bit of discount. So if that's what you're interested in, you can always let me know. I'm going to put the link to the mentorship page on my website on the show notes, so you can go check it out. And there are buttons you can click to submit your application to be part of the mentorship program. I just can't share enough how much heart and soul and passion goes in behind my mentorship program. I really do give the best, high quality attention, care, and focus to people in my mentorship group, because I really want everyone to succeed and I want to help them in any way possible. So I hope you can join the community. It's a really, really cool community, amazing group of yoga teachers, and it's really fun. So that's all the announcement for today. I want to get a little bit into the podcast interview for this week. This week, I got to interview Francesca, and Francesca Cervero is a host of a podcast called The Mentor Session for yoga teachers. And I've been listening to her podcast for many, many years. So I've been a dedicated listener of her podcast. And when she sent out a call that she is open to being a guest on different podcasts out there, of course, I was the first to write her a message and be like, come on my show. I was very excited and a little bit nervous and giddy to be able to speak to her and have this one-on-one conversation with her. So what's so amazing about Francesca, in my opinion, is that she has built a thriving, successful private yoga business for over 20 years. She was based in New York, and then she eventually have moved to DC area. But even through the moves, she has built back up her thriving private yoga business. And if you remember, I interviewed Britt in the past on my podcast, who also have built her successful career out of only private yoga business. And I'm always so fascinated to be able to speak to somebody who have built their business mostly around private yoga, because that's not easy and it's not something we commonly see in the yoga world. A lot of yoga teachers teach a lot of group classes. They might teach some corporate, they might do some trainings, workshop, retreats. But to have a thriving private yoga business is slightly more of a niche thing, and it's not something we see quite often. So Francesca is somebody I really, really respect for her knowledge and also how great of a communicator and educator she is. So she does not only teach private yoga, but she also have this mentorship session for yoga teachers, kind of similar to the mentorship program I run, as well as she does podcasting. She also have an online yoga studio. So she does a lot of similar things that I do in terms of podcasting, mentorship, and then teach yoga. But she's been doing it for way, way longer than me. So I just feel like she has so much to share, so much wisdom to share, as well as so much experience that she can speak from. And I'm just always so fascinated by her, and also admire somebody who's been in the industry for a really long time, who's been successful in the industry for a really long time. And she really values continuing education as well. You can tell that she spends a lot of time, effort, and attention into continuing to educate herself, not only in yoga but in different modalities. And I think I respect her for that a lot, because that's what I value as well. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation I had with Francesca, and I will speak to you on the other side. Welcome, Francesca, to Full-Time Yoga Teacher Podcast. I am very, very excited to chat with you. Just for listeners listening, I have been listening to your podcast, Mentor Session, for quite some time. So I feel like I've known you from afar. I've taken your workshop on Offering Tree and many different, and listened to your interviews on other podcasts as well. So it's really exciting for me that I get to have this conversation with you. It's a one-on-one conversation. So maybe let's start with letting the listeners know, where are you logging in from and where are you originally from?
Sure. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here with you today. So I live in Reston, Virginia. It's a nearby kind of suburb of Washington, D.C. I live here with my husband and 3-year-old son. I've been here for a few years. I've been all up and down the East Coast. I grew up in Georgia. I went to college in Philly. I lived and taught. I began my yoga teaching career in New York City, and I was there for 10 years. And then I've been in the DC area for about 10 years now.
So mostly all in the East Coast side. Yeah. So I feel like I have heard your stories from different podcasts and how much you share, but just for the listeners who may not be familiar with you, I'm curious, like, how old were you when you first took your 200-hour and became a teacher? And did you become a full-time teacher right away in New York, or was that like a slow transition from another career you had before?
So I was quite young when I took my first yoga teacher training. I did it immediately after graduating college. So I was 22 and I did a kind of condensed program, just was through the summer. And I started teaching right away that fall. I went to art school and was working to build a career as a dancer. And so my intention, my thinking was that I was going to be a yoga teacher as like my side hustle while I built a dance career. Turns out it's really as hard to make a living as a yoga teacher as it is as a dancer. But I just had the benefit of naivete. I didn't really know that. So I was just doing the like early 20s in New York hustle thing where I was getting as much work as I could as a yoga teacher. I was auditioning as a dancer, and then I like worked the front desk at a gym and the front desk at a Pilates studio and, a few other things like that. But I did manage to grow my teaching practice pretty quickly. I started teaching my first private client. So I did my training in 2005. I started with my first private client in 2006, like January of 2006. And by like mid-2007, I was teaching 20 to 25 private sessions a week. That is not a normal growth kind of that teachers can expect. It was a very particular time in my life. I was in my 20s, so I would teach at 5 a.m. I would teach at 8 p.m. I would teach on Saturdays. I would teach on Sundays. So that built it faster. It was also a particular time in the world. Like it was like it was the early 2000s in New York City. Yoga was really getting extremely popular very quickly. All of a sudden, to be honest, like just all these wealthy people in New York City were looking for a private yoga teacher. And that was something that was a kind of work that I didn't know much about, but fell into, and then really quickly realized that I enjoyed it and that I was approaching it differently than a lot of other people. And my practice just grew very quickly by word of mouth. So that was how that started. Yeah.
That's amazing. I've interviewed probably a handful of teachers from New York, and I think they were all dancers before they became a yoga teacher. I think they were, they were trying to do both for a while, but kind of all transitioned fully into yoga. And there's one guest on my podcast that I interviewed so far that have fully built her business through private yoga, and she's also based in New York, which is there's a lot more, like you said, during that time there was a lot of people actually looking for that service in New York.
Yeah.
And I'm curious to know because I think a lot of yoga teachers that I speak to and I get to interview, they kind of go through teaching a lot of group classes at a studio or gyms, and they kind of start stacking their schedule up and kind of reach a burnout point, which made them reconsider, like, okay, how else can I create my career in a way that's sustainable? But it seems like for you, the private yoga kind of started early on for you. So during that time, what was the difference for you in your experience of teaching group classes versus it's private? And what was the draw for you to like really want to pursue and build onto your private business versus group classes?
Yeah. Well, I was teaching plenty of group classes at that time as well. I was teaching at a gym. I was subbing at various studios around town. I did some corporate work. I had a class at PricewaterhouseCoopers. So I was definitely teaching group classes, and I really liked that too. I just liked teaching yoga. The benefit, just like immediately, very practically speaking, is that private students paid a lot more than we got paid to teach a group class. But I would say beyond that, like what I loved about it was how it was so obviously, that teaching work was so obviously a co-creation between me and the student. I feel that private lessons should really be in many ways student-led. What you teach them should be led by their interests, their desires, their curiosity, their trauma history, their needs. And I liked that felt so creative, coming from a dance background and from an art school background. I think that you can teach group classes in a deeply creative way also. And I love teaching really layered, kind of intricate, creative group classes too. But I like the intimacy of the co-creation in a private student work.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just practical though. Like I had to pay my rent. And so if I had to choose between a private client who was going to pay $100 and a group class that was going to pay $40, I just like practically speaking had to pick the private client.
Yeah.
If I was getting paid exactly the same amount for private clients and group classes, I may have ended up with a split that was more half and half. But it just, in New York City, like teaching group classes is a really hard way to like pay the rent.
Yes, definitely. Here in LA as well, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
And then I'm curious, like when you first started teaching private and slowly started growing it, did you have anyone who was helping you or mentoring you on how to teach a private? I know you have, that's kind of your specialty now, is to teach teachers how to be able to teach private yoga, because I think the approach is so different and it looks different than teaching a group class. It can look different than teaching group classes. Beginning, I'm curious, were you just kind of learning as you go, or did you have somebody you can learn from or were mentored under?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I had probably 3 people at the time who were wonderful mentors and supporters of mine, just in general, in terms of like teaching yoga as a career. They all had a lot of experience teaching private clients. Some of my first private clients were passed down from these mentors. I would also say, so I certainly learned a lot from them right in the beginning. I would also say pretty early on, I developed a passion for teaching private clients that they didn't really seem to have. They were good at it because they were like very skillful teachers, and they definitely like walked me through some of the business stuff early on. But I just was like so interested and inspired by the incredible nuance of the way you want to teach a private lesson as compared to a group class that I feel sort of came through me, just came through me, like that came kind of up on my own. But I also, had plenty of people that I'm very grateful for their support for sure.
Yeah.
But nobody really sat me down and was like, this is how you should do it in a way that I resonated with. I will say that like people did that and I kept being like, okay, yes, but I actually feel like you're missing some things that seem important to me. Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I kind of have a sense of like how important meeting students where they are is, and how being so open and curious and engaged by a student's experience.
Yeah.
Like I had a sense of how important that was, and that was something that I don't feel like was really taught to me.
And I'm always get so fascinated by you with amount of knowledge you have, obviously in the yoga, but it seems like you have really dedicated a lot of trainings and continuing education on the body and seeing the body and movement patterns. And your most recent episode where you were interviewing one of your students who also became your private client. And it was so interesting and fascinating. And I love listening to that episode. So what kind of continuing education did you take to have the knowledge that you have now? And also, like, is there any specific training that you recommend for yoga teachers who's interested in learning more about the body?
Yeah, it's a great question. So as I said, I was a dancer and I took like a year-long college-level anatomy before I even did my yoga teacher training. I also had several very serious injuries as a teenager, like before I graduated college. So I had already spent quite a lot of time in physical therapy, quite a lot of time outside of the dance world doing sort of like cross-training with different kinds of movement protocols, and then this college level anatomy. So I went into my yoga teacher training with a pretty like good foundation. And then had some basic anatomy education in my yoga teacher training that was wonderful. I ended up doing like a year-long anatomy studies course for yoga teachers with that teacher. His name is Jason Ray Brown. It might still be available. I'm not sure. This is literally like 2007, so this was a long time ago. I did a lot of yoga therapeutics trainings through Om Yoga Center, which isn't around anymore. But I would say I'm like naming a lot of places and people that aren't doing as much anymore. But a lot of my training is either in like very science-based biomechanics and anatomy. And then I got a lot of yoga therapeutics education through the Desikachar lineage. And I studied some with Jules Mitchell. I've studied with some of the students from Tom Meyer's kind of system of anatomy trains. I do a lot with like the fascial lines. That shows up a lot in my teaching. So I have a movement teacher who I work with every week. Her name's Kirsten Lyon. She's the owner of Toronto Movement Therapy. We can link her. But I've learned a lot from her, too. She's trained as a Pilates teacher and a physical therapist, and she is just like one of the smartest movement people. She has a very good eye for seeing movement, so I've learned a lot from her as well. And I've continued to have like a lot of serious injuries through my 20s and into my 30s, and spent a lot of time with lots of different kinds of movement teachers, rehabbing my own movement patterns. And I've learned a lot from that, too. But I think yoga teachers need a really solid, pretty robust, basic anatomy training. And then something else on top of that, whether it's anatomy trains, whether it's like a biomechanics training with Jules Mitchell. But it's like you need the basic anatomy, and then you want to kind of be able to expand from there.
Yeah, I love all the places you and teachers that you named, and like I could hear so much years of trainings and education and like bits and pieces you're learning from your teachers and mentors. And I think it's so important for listeners to hear that you also have your private session with your teacher that you see on a regular
Every
basis.
week.
Yeah, which I think, will continue. You're continuing to learn about yourself and your body and your pattern. And how that's only going to make you a better teacher as well. My question is like, I also love learning about the bodies. I don't know if you know, I think they're based in the East Coast for Threes Physio Yoga.
Oh, yeah. Diane is a good friend of mine.
Yes. So I did their training recently.
Yeah, that's a great training.
And also like Tom Mayer, some online programs with him, or the Jules Mitchell fascia stuff. But now I'm also starting to shadow a PT recently here in local in Long Beach, and that's been really fun for me to kind of see a movement, learning movement from another modality outside of yoga.
Yeah.
And that's been like really fascinating for me. And I guess my question is, because you have so much like PT kind of knowledge and like a yoga therapy kind of knowledge, did you ever feel like you wanted to pursue like getting a yoga therapy, like formal training and certificate, or PT, or those, or even like some of the yoga teachers who are amazing private instructors are also Pilates certified? And, so have you ever looked into going through any of those more like a formal certification program, or did you felt like you were able to get what you need from these different modalities that you learn?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I love learning. I love education. I love gathering new tools. And I think the more tools a teacher has, the better we can help our students. I'm actually eligible. I haven't done the paperwork, but I'm eligible just to be grandmothered into being considered a yoga therapist without actually going through additional training, just based on the training and the experience I've done. So we need to think about if I want to make that happen. I've often had students say, you're so much more helpful to me than my physical therapist. You should go to PT school. And I'm a little if I'm so much more helpful than your physical therapist, what I got to go to school for? I'm just being silly. I'm not trying to knock. That's a huge amount of school, and those people know a lot of things that I don't know and can help a lot of people in ways that I can't. So I'm not knocking that profession at all. I just think I'm like I'm always going to want to learn more. Something that's really high on my bucket list that I should have done before I had a baby is to do a week-long cadaver dissection.
Yeah.
I really want to do that. So, but I just feel like now it might be a while because it's like it's expensive. It's a week away from your family. It's just a lot, right? But yeah, I mean, there's a ton of stuff I want to continue to learn. I don't know if it's ever going to be in like a dedicated big school program. I just don't right now feel like I need that to be able to do a good job doing the work that I'm doing. That could change at some point, but I'm pretty happy right now with what I'm able to offer my students and the tools that I have. But I did have a couple teachers who study with me who are also physical therapists, and have been for years, say after I had done a lecture recently on developmental movement patterns, how they, our movement patterns develop as babies and children and what that looks like into adulthood and specifically around the deep core and the psoas. So it was this whole 90-minute lecture on the psoas and where those movements develop. And this one teacher in my membership community was like, I really think that you could pass like the orthopedic board section of like the PT exam. And then Geneva, the person you're referring to who was on the podcast last week, she's in PT school right now. She was like, if you pass that test before me, I'm going to be so mad. And I was like, that's fair. I won't take the test before you do. But I do kind of want to, I don't think I'd really be able to get my hands on a copy of it because then people could cheat. Like they're not online. But I would love to see if I could pass it because I do have a pretty like robust background.
Yeah. And I think it's like even listening to your most recent podcast episode with Geneva, she's in a PT school currently and she's still wanting to work one-on-one with you as, you as her private yoga instructor, which I think just says a lot, I think. And that's kind of what I have kind of gone through this, like, should I go back to school, whether as a yoga therapy school or maybe PT school, or I've kind of toyed those ideas before. And I also get to interview teachers on my podcast who's gone to yoga therapy school and PT or PTA. And sometimes what I hear from them is that they felt like they wanted more of a security behind their career and that going back to school to have this under their names felt like they can have more job security and also can maybe the feeling of they can find a job easier that's better paid. But then there's also other side, I think, which is also important side to highlight, which is kind of what you're doing and other teachers I also got to interview is like maybe there's not like a formal, PT or the name, like those letters behind you, but you still have built this beautiful, successful business that are very helpful. You're actually being able to really help your clients and students that you work with. Then it's like, then maybe like you don't really need to actually go back to school to get those letters if you already are doing your job in such a great way that are making positive influence and impact.
Yeah, it's a really personal decision, like what people need and what they have the capacity for and what tools they're lacking and what tools they feel like they need. So everyone's going to make a very different choice. I might make a different choice in the future,
Yeah, that's so true. Okay, so that I want to kind of go into asking questions about, I know you have moved since then from New York City when you had a thriving private business to another state. So how was that move like for you as a yoga teacher? Because when if teaching is our reliable income for living, sometimes moving to another city is like a whole new, it can be a challenge because you have to start building your clients again or you have to get to know the local studio. So how was that move like for you?
Well, fortunately or not, I'm not sure. I really stretched it out. It was a 3-year-long transition. So I started moving to Washington, D.C. in 2013. Is this right? Hang on. I don't know. I'm not going to get the dates right. No, it was 2012. Anyway. And kept my clients in New York. So I commuted back and forth.
Wow.
Okay, which was dumb because it was so expensive. I had apartments in both cities and I took the train every week. Like it was really nuts. But it did make it possible for me to keep all my clients in New York, where I was like making really great money and I loved them. And I had my great friends in New York too. And then also start to build a life outside of New York City, which I did want to do because I knew I didn't want to be there forever. So
Mhm.
it got to be slow. I started practicing at the local yoga studio. I got to be
Mhm.
friends with some of the teachers and the owner. They offered me
Mhm.
a class there. I had a few people find me online because I started
Mhm.
advertising that I was teaching in
Mhm.
Washington, D.C. So by the time I completely left New York City
Mhm.
and was just in the D.C. area, I had enough. It wasn't great, but I had
Mhm.
enough to survive and then could build from there, which was easier since I was there full time. So
Mm.
again, it was like a particular time in my life. I wasn't married. I didn't have kids. I didn't own a home. I didn't have a pet. Like I just
Yeah.
could really be focused on building my career. So it's not necessarily possible for everybody to do it that way, but I was just sort
Mhm.
of lucky in the timing of how all that happened that I was able to make it work.
And when you started slowly building in a new home, what was your goal to build mostly again the private yoga business and maybe few group classes? Was that kind of what you're going for?
Yeah, I feel like the only way for it to really be financially sustainable.
Mm.
But I always recommend being part of the local yoga community and
Mhm.
making friends with teachers and having at least one group class on the schedule at a studio that
Mhm.
you like to practice at. I think it's really important to be looped into your community. I think yoga teacher friends are invaluable on this journey. But if you need to make a full-time income,
Mhm.
it's probably going to have to be private clients.
Mhm. Mhm. And when did you start your podcast?
Yeah, I started the podcast in 2017.
Uh-huh. So after you have moved out of New York
Mm.
and
Yeah, so in 2012 was the first time that I created
mhm.
the Science of the Private Lesson teacher training.
Mhm.
But that was when I began training and mentoring teachers. And it was
Mhm.
very exclusively focused on these
Mhm.
skills of working one-on-one with teachers. And I loved it. And I still love it. And I still offer that training. But by 2017, after 5 years of doing that, I felt like I wanted to have more expansive conversations
Mhm.
with and for yoga teachers that was not so specifically about teaching private clients, but just about what good quality teaching looked like in general. I'm very
Mhm.
interested in the craft of teaching and
Mhm.
how we can all continue to grow and improve and evolve. And
Mhm.
so I just wanted there to be a space to talk about other
Yeah.
stuff.
Wow. So you started with that science of teaching private yoga courses that I think you used to do it in person, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
That kind of led to you mentoring and the yoga teachers. And that also kind of led into starting your podcast to kind of expand on.
exactly.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
So it seems that from such a early on, it seems like there was a passion for you to fill the gap of there just aren't a lot of information out there to teach good quality private yoga, which is so
Yeah.
true. Like we don't learn that in our teacher training, how to teach a private, and it's very
No.
different than teaching a group classes. But then it seems like there was also your desire or maybe passion for working with yoga teachers, not only just working with students and clients. So how did you get interested in working more with teachers?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think that, like I said, I'm very interested in the craft of teaching.
Mm.
Why am I so interested in that? That's a little bit of a harder question for me to answer. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's an obvious answer, which is that both of my parents are
Mm.
educators, and my
Mm.
mom specifically is a teacher educator. So, um yeah, like what makes someone a good teacher is
Yeah.
like kind of was a natural topic of conversation in my
Mhm.
house growing up.
Mhm.
And I've always just been interested as I look at myself and say,
Mm.
didn't love that. Like, that wasn't great. That wasn't clear. That wasn't super helpful. That could have been shared in a more accessible way. I'm always looking at myself like that.
Mhm.
And so mm, I think then for me, the natural evolution of that was to start to form some opinions
Mhm.
about what good quality teaching looks like
Mhm.
and then start sharing it. And then other teachers were like, tell me more about that. And I was like, okay,
Mhm.
great. I will because I have some thoughts.
Yeah. I'm curious, maybe let's talk a little bit about podcasting journey. I started mine almost 2 years ago, and I just finally hit my 100 episodes. And I was like, I'm going to release one episode once a week. That was my goal for the 1 year. And then 1 year became 2 years. So I just also know time consuming and challenging it is to be running and hosting your podcast. How did your podcast journey start? And also, because you started quite a while ago before podcast was popular as it is now. So how was your journey like? Like, what was the growth like? Where you feel like you were reaching a lot of teachers that you wanted to reach? And also, did you ever feel, I don't know, I think finding the balance of how much hours, I feel like for me that I have a hard time finding the balance of like hours it takes to create and release. And also, is this also feeding me back in a way? And, I can look at like so many different ways, but that balance and trying to find a balance. I would love to hear your podcasting journey.
Sure. Well, I started the podcast because I wanted a place to make long form content, to have nuanced conversations that wasn't just me and my ideas and my voice, but other teachers who I respected and wanted to learn more from, and to give them a platform. And I just didn't have a lot of specific goals when I started. I was like, let's just see what happens. I was at the same time hiring a new project manager, just sort of, and she's still with me today, and my operations manager, Jess. And one of the things that I wanted her to help me with was the production of the podcast. And she said, I think it was probably our second interview, that she had never worked on a podcast. She had no idea how to do it. And I was like, you're smart. You'll figure it out. I'm not very micromanagey. Like, I just trusted her to figure out what we needed to do. And she did. Like, she Googled around and, okay, here are the options for places we can upload the audio. So it's like Libsyn, Podbean, whatever. There were a few. And she's like, I researched and I think this is the best one. And I suggest we go with this one. I'm like, great, Libsyn it is. There were not like that many decisions to make. It was just a few of those. We do have a sound engineer, so I've never done the audio editing myself. I didn't want to do that. And I have mostly done 2 episodes a month. I've never done weekly episodes except for a short stint this summer when I was like having a creative hit of inspiration. And then honestly, like probably for the whole year after my son was born and maybe a second year, I'd only did 1 episode a month. So I think I've been able to be relatively consistent. Like, I have been posting new content monthly since 2017 because sometimes that was all I did, just once a month, And for better or for worse, I'm like much more of an artist than I am a business person. I just feel like compelled to make my art. And my art is like these conversations with yoga teachers who have interesting perspectives. And I like forget to focus on like any sort of potential business, like bottom line. Like I'm like, oh, I have to promote. I like recorded this amazing episode with Geneva. It came out last week. And then I'm like, oh my God, I didn't even like do a single social post to promote this. Like, I have to, promotion, I would say, is like not the piece of this work that I'm most interested in, but I do think it's important to do. So I just have to remember. Anyway, so I would say it's just been like a creative labor of love. And I've kept it simple enough that it hasn't been too much work. But every week is hard. I'm impressed that you're doing that. Like, that seems really hard.
Definitely. I think I'm going to slow it down. I just wanted to kind of really be consistent in the beginning of my podcasting so I can kind of get the momentum going. But yeah, I think starting 26, my thinking of releasing it less frequently, but kind of like what you do, it's even if it's once a month or twice a month, but still try to keep some kind of consistency rather than like completely stop for a year and come back again. Some kind of lower consistency that I could find so it's not too much work for me. So I definitely appreciate what you said. And from what you said, I just have a couple questions that came to me, maybe not specifically related to podcasting. But the first one is when you said you're not a business person. And, you actually made that point, and maybe it was when you were guest teaching or at Offering Tree or on your podcast, maybe. But that's one area that I really love about you is because you kind of made it clear that, like, I'm not a business coach. Like, I love teaching yoga. You still teach yoga. yoga business coaches out there, they're not really teaching anymore, or they maybe didn't even teach that much to begin with. So I feel like there's a little bit of disconnect, like they don't really exactly know what we're going through. And then where you come out and you kind of make it clear, like, I'm not a business coach. And this is like what I do is that I teach private yoga, and I have this other, online studio and other things that you do, and you mentor yoga teachers, but you're mentoring them not from like, this is how you should run your business. It's very it's very like a yoga mentorship, teacher to students, and I really appreciate that about you. And so I'm curious, I guess, from perspective of me, from looking at you from the outside, like I feel like you have built such a beautiful and sustainable business. And where have you learned? I'm sure there was maybe a lot of trials and errors to get to where you are. So like how has your business developed over the years? And I know you're not a business coach, and you love teaching, the art of teaching, which I really love and appreciate. And I think that's why you can really come and have this, like, your mentorship session that you do have, that really comes truly from your heart and your actual real experience. But I'm curious to see, what are some hurdles or challenges in your business journey to be teaching full time for this long? Because you've been teaching and being in this industry for a really long time. So any words of wisdom for yoga teachers?
Well, let's see. I do often have people ask for business advice because I have like built a successful full-time teaching career. I've been doing this for 20 years. I have learned a lot about online business, online marketing in the, I guess, now 12 years that I've been mentoring teachers, because my whole private practice grew by word of mouth. So I never have really had to advertise my teaching private clients. So that was like 2006 to 2005, 2006 to 2012 is when I started teaching teachers. And then when I started teaching teachers, I needed a way to reach them in the online space. So I definitely invested some of the money that I was making teaching private clients in working with a business coach. I worked with Rachel Cook. She is amazing. Her company now, I think, is called the CEO Collective. But I did like a one-on-one, like year-long business mentorship with her in like 20, and that was really like set me on a great path. And then I have followed some other people who teach online marketing and listened to their podcast. I haven't really done any other paid programs with anybody else, but there's a lot of free content out there. So I've really learned a lot from Amy Porterfield, from Jenna Kutcher, are probably the two that I listen to most. And I would say I kind of go through spurts of being interested and excited about promoting the work that I offer to teachers online. And I'll kind of do a scramble and like really dive in and learn some new skills and try some new things. Like just last week, I was thinking about how I have such a beautiful system set up to support the people who are inside my membership community, the Mentor Session Sangha. And I can really handle like double the amount of people that I have in there right now without anybody losing personal attention from me and without there being any work. It's a very scalable system. And for my family, like it would be great if I was making more money, like that would, in this economy, like we'll take all the extra money we can get. So I got like really motivated to be like, I should really be promoting this more. Like I said, I'm like not that great at promotion, but every now and then I'll kind of go through a sprint where I'm like, I'm posting on social media. I'm getting people off social media onto my newsletter list. We're going to do a big push for the Sangha in January. So I kind of go through waves. Being motivated and then like not caring and just being like, I just want to focus on my teaching and my own practice and my family. Just like let it run itself, But anyways, you asked for advice. What's my advice? I mean, I think part of the reason I have been successful is because I'm always guided by my interest, my curiosity, my passion. And if I'm not feeling passionate about something, I don't do it. And I think that's made it sustainable in the long term because I don't really get burned out. If something's burning me out, I just let it go.
I love that. That's such a great, simple, but great advice.
It's like, what do you care about?
Yeah.
And then just go with that.
So true. I feel like for me, with the, like different continuing education or a different topic I want to learn, since I finished 200 hour, I've been just following my interests. Like, I really want to learn more about body and anatomy, or I really want to learn more about the Yoga Sutras and really kind of, or accessible yoga with Jivana, like chair yoga. So kind of really following my interests. And I feel like that has led me to have this blend of knowledge and experience and skill set that I have that makes me the yoga teacher that I am, that might be, a little bit different than the other teacher who followed their interests, So I feel like
Exactly.
following your interests and continue to follow what feeds you, I think it's definitely such a great advice. And another question I got from when you were talking about podcasting is you had your project manager help, or you've been working with for a long time. At what point, maybe you get this question a lot, but at what point did you feel like you were ready to hire somebody to help you? And like, I feel like I'm at the point it'll be beneficial for me to have somebody helping me. But then there's those, well, then, obviously the money, you are making this much and you have to reinvest back in the business. But knowing like when are you ready, and how has your experience like working with, I think Jessica is your
Yeah.
project manager.
I mean, Jessica is a dream. Okay, so we'll
Mhm.
just say that. And she
You did
does
an
sometimes,
interview with her, right?
yeah.
Yes,
And
that was really
she
good.
sometimes will do like special one-off discounted packages with
Mhm,
listeners of mine. So I can
mhm,
check with her, and if she's okay with it, we can link it in the show
mhm,
notes. She didn't know anything about the yoga world when I hired
mhm,
her, and she is like so dialed in to the yoga world now. It's really cool. But so, I mean, when does it make sense to hire someone? For me, it was when I was turning down people who were asking to book private client sessions so that I could
mhm,
do admin work.
mhm,
I mean, if you're turning down higher paid work that you could outsource to somebody who's likely
mhm,
better at it anyway, then it's
mhm,
time.
mhm, mhm.
Then it's time.
Yeah.
It's just math. It's the same thing. Like, why did I end up teaching private clients? Partly because I loved it. And also
Mhm.
partly because, like, that's how I got my rent paid and I had health insurance,
Yeah.
Like, this can work if you're practical about it, you know? You just have to be
Yeah.
practical.
That's such a, again, very simple, but like such a great tip and advice. I love it. I love it because it's not like it's it's not a complicated answer, Like sometimes it's just like simple. It's like you have to hire somebody if you're turning it down. I love that. And I kind of want to switch direction and talk about your online yoga studio and maybe you switching your teachings to online during the pandemic. So I know during the pandemic, a lot of yoga teachers had to switch online, whether it's a group class or a private one-on-one. And what's so fascinating and interesting for me to talk to yoga teachers on this podcast is some people have continued to be online and their online work and business continue to be successful and thriving. I've seen maybe dwindling, like less online is now popular, and some teachers have to kind of completely switch back to being in person. So everyone's journey has been different. Please share like how was the switch into becoming online private and group class teacher during the pandemic, and now that it's post pandemic, how has that, like, what's the journey has been, how has it changed or shifted for you?
Yeah. Well, those early weeks of the pandemic were bananas, right? I mean, it was just like, but I had the advantage of seeing what was coming.
Mm,
My dad, I said, my parents are educators. My dad works for a medical school based in Washington, D.C., and it's connected to the Department of Defense. It's like a military medical school.
mhm,
And he sort of pioneered online learning like 20
mhm,
plus years ago.
mhm.
So he was responsible for moving the entire medical school to an online format. And they
Wow.
had him start working on that in January of
Uh-huh,
2020 because
uh-huh.
they saw what was happening in China. They knew it was coming here.
Mhm,
So as the pandemic was beginning, it was still like so hard to wrap my mind around, even though I had this warning, just because
mhm,
obviously none of us had ever experienced anything like that. So even though I knew it was coming, I was still also like shocked and confused and
mhm,
stressed. But I was able to kind of move through that, I think, faster than a lot of other yoga teachers
mhm,
because I did have like warning that this was coming and
mhm.
that it was going to be a long time. I knew it wasn't 2 weeks. It wasn't even going to
Right.
be 2 months. Like I knew it
Mhm,
was going to be a long time that we were all
mhm,
kind of shut in.
mhm,
So I moved extremely quickly.
mhm,
I taught my last in-person class on Friday, March 13th.
Mm-hmm.
I will never forget it because it was my birthday. And I went and got my hair cut. And I was like, we should not be doing this. But here we all are getting, it was packed in there that day. And I knew it was and I told my group class students, we will be online next week. And the studio that I worked at hadn't even decided to close. Our state hadn't even said, you have to close. But I just was like, this is happening. My students were like, well, what if we just bring our own blocks? And I was like, you guys, no. The studio, I think, will be closed. But even if not, this class will be online. We have to do everything we can to flatten the curve and save people's lives. So we're moving online. Stay tuned. You will get an email from me. And I did the same thing with my private clients. I was like, we're going online. And I did not miss a single day of work. Monday, March 16th, I had all my normal private clients that I normally see on Mondays. We were just online. It was a lot of work to help everybody get comfortable with the technology and get their screen set up. I was working 12, 14-hour days for months.
Yeah.
But my group classes were enormous. I mean, I was charging $10 a person drop in, just no real system. And I had 70 people. So it was really wild. And it was that whole summer. And then it did start to shrink for sure as stuff opened back up and people went back in person. And but I have that same class on Friday now. And I have 15 people, 15 to 20 people every week.
That's good.
I'm very happy with it. It's a really solid group of people. I still make more teaching that class than I would with a private student in that spot. Because it's now $14 drop-in. And yeah, I'm thrilled with it. I really, really like the way I can teach a group class online. Because I can see everyone. I have notes if I need them. My teaching changed a little bit when we went online. It became even more subtle, even more specific, even more nuanced, more layered, more complicated in a lot of ways. And because I like that. I like getting to see everybody at the same time. I just, this past weekend, did a training at a studio in North Carolina for teachers. And to kick off the training weekend, we did a class in the morning that was open to everybody. Students from the studio came too. And it was so fun. It was 20 plus people, all who knew each other and loved each other, packed into this room that's beautiful and the lighting's beautiful. And I loved it. I really loved it. And my teaching cannot be, I don't feel quite, and maybe it's because I'm not as used to it anymore, but I don't feel like it's quite as specific or quite as nuanced as the way I can teach online. Because I can't see absolutely everybody at once when I'm teaching in person. It's a little bit more on vibes and a little tiny bit less specificity.
Yeah.
There's benefits to both. And like I said, it was so fun to be with everyone. And I felt kind of emotional, I was like, this is lovely. I would love to do more of this. But I'm never going to give up that Friday online group class. I just really like the way I get to teach in there.
And you said that you knew that was going to be your last class that you're teaching before all the studio closed. And it seems like you started teaching on your own online. So were you, to get your students who was coming to your studio in-person classes to your own online classes, how did you do that? Did you have a newsletter with email list?
I'm trying to remember how I had. I think I told them I'm going online. Make sure I have your email address so I can invite you. Because the studio did also end up going online eventually, but it took a while. It was really disorganized. The pay was horrible. I had already been teaching my class just with my Zoom link, for probably 3 weeks, a month by the time the studio got it together.
Yeah. So you were ahead of the game for sure. Yeah. That's amazing. And I know you also started your online yoga studio during the pandemic, and you still continue to teach online. And I was looking on the website, and you also have other teachers who teach for that studio. So how's your online yoga studio journey been like? And also, especially now that it's everything's are open back up.
Yeah. We only have one other class usually on the schedule besides the one that I teach right now. We've been through different phases, different teachers trying different things. And the students who come are very appreciative and they love it. It hasn't really grown a ton, which makes sense, But for me, part of the reason it was really important to have other classes on the schedule is that the class that I taught in person was a level 1, 2. So it was between a level 1 and a level 2. And I felt like if I was going to have a level 1, 2 on the schedule, there had to be a level 1. It's like I feel a moral obligation to have a class on the schedule that is open and like very accessible to beginners. So I feel very committed to having that no matter what happens. Yeah. But I mean, the teachers who teach those classes like love it and love the students, and it's really sweet. I would love for that to grow at some point. That hasn't been a huge focus of mine right now, but maybe I'll get inspired and be like, we're growing the online studio this month, and I'll like listen to a couple podcasts, and I don't know. We'll see what happens.
No, I totally understand because for me to have an online studio, I have a mentorship and podcast, and sometimes it's just too many things to promote, and I don't want to be continuously promoting. So sometimes you just focus on one thing to promote for that period or that phase or that month. But yeah, I feel like for me, the virtual yoga studio, the one I have kind of, or they're not in the forefront of me trying to like let people know and kind of bringing them in to invite. But I think for me, it's because I have so many other things I'm doing as well. And it seems like for you too. And I'm curious about, so your online studio is a only drop-in. You sell class packs, but it's not like a monthly unlimited membership.
No, it's nothing like that because it's just like 2 or 3 classes a week on the schedule. So there's no like monthly membership. We don't do class series. I love those for some people. We have in my membership community nearly once a month. We have some like big back and forth about whether drop-in classes are better or series classes are better. And I think it really depends on the teacher and the demographic of students. And it depends on a lot of factors. For me, series doesn't work. I really like an open-ended drop-in class. Like I'm here, come and get it if it works for you. Like that vibe just works for me. But I think a lot of teachers really have a lot more success with a series. So I'm not knocking them. I recommend them for a lot of people, but we don't do them. We just do like open, drop in, come and get it. You can buy a 10-class card. It makes it cheaper. It never expires. Like we just try to make it really low commitment and really easy.
I love that. And I would love for you to talk a little bit about your mentorship program, the Sangha group that you have. And I know you said earlier it's very scalable for you. So I'm curious, like, how does it structured? What do you offer? And also, even the listeners listening, if they might be interested. So what do you offer in the mentorship group?
Yeah, I wanted a place to continue the conversations that we have in the podcast, kind of in an offline type of way. I mean, off social media anyway. I just wanted a place to go deeper, So I created this membership community in 2021, and it's really developed and grown a lot with the members. But we have 2 Q&As a month where people send in or just come with their questions, and we sort of see where the conversation goes. We have a teacher's practice that I teach, like an asana class, once a month. And then on the off weeks in that time slot, which is Wednesday at 10:30 Eastern, members of the Sangha will volunteer to teach each other so that they can give and receive feedback on their teaching, which I feel like is so nice. And I think has gotten much harder to get feedback on your teaching since the pandemic. Because in the beginning of the pandemic is when I started this teacher's class. It was Wednesdays at 10:30 Eastern. And I taught it every week for 4 years. And, it's only teachers who are coming. It's a lot of teachers in the Sangha. I got a lot of feedback from them on my teaching, and it absolutely clarified and improved my teaching in some really wonderful ways. I really grew as a teacher a lot because I was teaching a class just for teachers every week. I really had to like stretch and challenge myself. And I was like, you guys need to be getting this opportunity as well. So now they all they teach and then they just get feedback. And then we're all from different lineages. So people get to experience teaching from different lineages, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So there's an asana class pretty much every week taught by me or somebody else. There's Q&As twice a month. And then we just do like extra workshops sort of as teachers are interested. So like in October, I did this workshop on developmental movement patterns in the psoas. I think in January, we'll do a workshop on just understanding the anatomy and the terminology of joint actions. And then we'll use that to really do a deep dive on the anatomy of the hips. So we do sort of like anatomy, body focus stuff. We do business conversations as needed. Because again, it's like not my particular interest, but I also have like done it pretty well. So I have some wisdom to offer. And then the third piece of stuff that we talk about is Dharma and how to incorporate Dharma. So we're doing a study group right now in the Bhagavad Gita where we're reading through a book that's a translation of the Gita, and I'm actually friends with the author. So we're going to have him come in after our last meeting and do a workshop with us on the Bhagavad Gita. So it's really robust, you know?
I love that. And I'm curious, how did it evolve from like your first beginning Sangha? And I know you say it's been changing, you know, it's evolving and getting feedback from your students. And so what are some like learning that you have had, some experience that you have gained that's like, okay, let's try it this way. Let's tweak it this way to get to where it is today.
Is I just ask the members, I'm like, what do you want? And then they're like, we want more focus on integrating Dharma into asana classes. We need more spiritual study. So we're looking at bringing a teacher in to do some sessions on the Yoga Sutras, but we started with the Bhagavad Gita because we had this book that we could read together. I just ask them what they want. You know, so like the basic is 2 Q&As a month and then an asana class every week. And then we do bonus workshops at least every quarter, but more like every couple of months. That's completely just driven by what people are interested in. So it's like developmental movement patterns, the anatomy of the psoas, and a deep dive on the Bhagavad Gita. You know, it's like pretty, but it reflects who I am as a teacher. So I think it works.
And if they join, do they get a recording from your past workshop you taught?
Everything is recorded and everything is in there. So even if they join now, they can there's 4 years of me teaching teachers practice in there. You know, all the content's in there.
Amazing.
I use just for logistically speaking. Yeah, you should come be in it. I think you'd really like it. It's like pretty. It's an interesting mix. We definitely have some newer teachers, but we have a lot of very experienced teachers, and so the conversations are like quite high level, I would say, which is cool.
When is the Q&A? What time and what day?
They're usually Monday afternoons.
Okay.
Eastern, depends a little bit, but sometimes usually 1:30 Eastern, although it varies a bit. Q&As are then. Asana practice is Wednesday at 10:30 Eastern, which is early for you guys, but we have some West Coasters who make it. And then the bonus workshops are sort of when works best for people. So sometimes it's Thursday afternoon, sometimes Friday afternoon. Sometimes I'll even do it on a weekend if that really maximizes attendance. So
the Q&A sounds like it works for me too, because if it's Monday afternoon for you, it'll be Monday late morning maybe for me.
Oh my God, we would love to have you. That would be awesome.
Really
cool.
I was actually trying to look at the time of your Q&A on your website, but I couldn't find it. But
but the time itself may not be listed just because it does change a little bit, although it's pretty set at this point. Yeah.
Okay. How amazing.
And we have another thing that we have that we added just this year is a private podcast feed. So there's people who never can attend live, but if you just register for this private podcast, like everything that we do just shows up like in your normal podcast player. So people really can stay in touch. And sometimes hearing other people's questions and the way that I answer them is as like meaningful and helpful, if not more so, as like coming with your own question, because you have like a little bit of space. So you get to listen to both like the way the question is asked, the way the question gets answered, plus you get all the detailed information too. I just think people get a lot out of it, even when they're not there live.
Yeah. Well, that sounds really, really cool. I want to ask about being a mom. You have a son that you talk about on your podcast, and I think as a solo business owner or like people who's a yoga teacher, we don't have something to rely on like a set maternity leave or paid time off. So how was that for you going through having a baby and, you know, raising your baby, and how much time off did you have to plan for? And was everything planned, or you were just kind of checking in as the time goes on each month? So I'm just curious how it's like being a solo yoga business owner and also having a baby.
Yeah. Well, I had the advantage of having my first baby when I was 39. So I was old. I'm an old mom. And that meant that I had a lot of years of working under my belt before I had my son. And was hoping, planning, trying to have a baby for a long time before I did. So I saved a lot of money. A lot. Enough to have a fully paid 7-month-long maternity leave.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
If I have another baby, I won't be able to do that again because I don't have that much money saved the second time around. Because when I came back from maternity leave, I worked a lot less than I did before my son was born. I used to work easily 50 hours a week. I mean, I would start my days at 7 a.m., if not 6 a.m., and teach until 5 p.m. 5 days a week. And I did that for 17 years, essentially, until Max was born. So I knew I didn't want to, well, actually didn't know, but once I just started going back after maternity leave kind of in small bits based on when I could get childcare. And I thought eventually I would kind of go back to working the hours that I had been before. And then I just was like, oh, that's just not going to make sense. There's so much like work to do besides just taking care of the kid to like take care of the house and like run a household. I just needed more hours in the day. So now I work 8:30 to 3:15, pretty much straight through, maybe like 5 or 10-minute breaks between clients, 5 days a week. But that's a lot less than I used to work. So I don't have like the money saved up for as long a paid maternity leave. So if I did it again, maybe it wouldn't be paid as much, or maybe it would be shorter. I don't know what I would do. That was sort of a benefit of like a first time mom at 39 kind of process. But so in terms of planning for it, I had subs for my group classes. That was just subbed for like 6-7 months. I had guest teachers coming into my membership community since I wasn't present for the Q&As. And then I had teachers come and observe me teaching my private clients for like a month before I went on leave, and then had them subbing for my private clients. I would say maybe half of my private clients accepted a sub. They were like, okay, sure, let's have a sub. And the other half were like, I'll just wait for you to come back, you know? But that helped too, just to have a very small bit of income coming in. I mean, I paid the teachers mostly what I made, but it helped a little bit just to like keep things flowing. So that's what I did. Yeah. And I work just basically like public school hours. My son's in preschool, 8:30 to 3:30. It's amazing. It's hard. It's the mental load of like being a parent and a homeowner is really taxing. It's like harder than actually parenting, just the mental load of it all. But thank goodness for my practice. I mean, this would all be much harder. I do feel like 20 years of spiritual practice is what was needed to like really parent my son, who's like a big emotions, big, strong 3-year-old. But it's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. It seems like you really did plan. Like you had somebody who was observing your private one-on-one that could take over while you were gone, and also having guest teachers for your mentorship program. Did all of your private client, I know you said some of them weren't open to somebody else teaching them and they wanted to wait for you to come back, but did all of your private client come back after you started teaching private again, or did you lose some along the way?
Yeah, it's a good question. I did lose a couple, but part of the reason that I lost them is because I didn't come back to my full working hours. I didn't have space for them anyway. So it was kind of natural. Like there were like 2 people, I guess, that I lost technically, but I also saw them in hours that I'm not working anymore. And I had one client who wanted to stay with his sub.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which I like loved because she is amazing. And like, of course, he loved her. But also I felt sad because I loved him, And I didn't really expect that. But I mean, I guess I should have. But I haven't seen him, I don't think, since my son was born. And I'm subbing for her next week. No, tomorrow. What is time? I'm subbing for her tomorrow. So I'll get to see him. So I'm really excited.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. What was I gonna I had a question. Oh, I'm curious, how many private clients do you see a week these days? Like, I know it probably changes every week, but in average.
Yeah, so let's see. One, I'm just going to go through my schedule. 2, 3. So I have technically like 15 open slots for private clients each week. And I have standing appointments in about 10 of those. So some weeks I just see the 10 people that I have standing, and some weeks like extra people, someone will book an extra session or someone from a group class will do. So I average between 10 and 15 a week, and about 10 of those are standing appointments.
I see. It's amazing. And but
Yeah.
it sounds like you used to teach a lot more
Yeah,
than
I used to
that.
teach a lot more. Like, 25 is like a lot.
Yeah.
In
That
person when I
is.
was doing it running around New York, but even
Yeah.
doing it online, like 6 a
Uh-huh.
day
That's a lot.
is a lot. I just couldn't do it now. I mean,
Mm,
if I didn't, like not and be the mom I want to be and the teacher I want to be.
mhm.
They're all so energy draining. I couldn't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Oh my God. Thank you for sharing so much, Francesca. I feel like I could keep asking you questions, but I want to be respectful of your time. So I want to end with the question of, you've been doing this for 20 years. Um, and what continued to drive you to continue? Like, I'm sure you have seen many teachers who no longer teach anymore or scale back a lot or change career path. So what is your motivation, drives, inspiration that continue to teach yoga for 20 years, but not only just teach, but you're also helping yoga teachers? So I think I would love to hear, what is your drive?
I just feel so inspired by the way yoga can help people if you teach it in a nonlinear, non-aesthetic, non-hierarchical kind of way. And what that means is that you're looking at a student's body and you're assessing movement patterns and nervous system and factoring in old injuries and energy level and helping them figure out what version of a pose is most useful, whether that's a more challenging, we're trying to get more work somewhere that needs some strength, or we need to ease up, or we're really just looking at the way the poses and practices of yoga can really deeply help people. It's not about me knowing things and passing on information. Although I do know things and I do pass on information, what is most helpful and healing to people is to be in co-creation with me and with their yoga practice and with themselves. And it's just this like continuous well of inspiration. I really have never been bored. I don't really lack inspiration, and I don't get burned out because I approach the teaching of yoga as a work of art. And I just feel so compelled to engage in the practice of art making.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very fulfilling way to teach.
I love that. I love how for you the teaching is also the form of art making. I love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, Francesca. It's been such a pleasure being able to chat with you. Being a longtime listener of your podcast, I really appreciate all that you put out there. And please let the listeners know how they can find you or how they can get involved in anything you're offering.
Yeah, so I'm so glad to be here with you, and I really appreciate the chance to talk to you and the teachers listening. You can just go to my website, francescacervero.com, and that's the basic information. But I have 2 opt-ins that might be useful for your teachers. One is bookprivateclients.com will offer 2 templates the teachers can use to send out to potential private clients. And the other is sequences.com, which is 15 video sequences to help students prepare better for downward facing dog. So those are probably the best things to link in the show notes. And then I'm also on Instagram. I may be posting a lot right now if I'm feeling inspired. So come find me there.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I'll make sure to link those on the show notes. And I really appreciate your time. And it was really fun to chat with you.
It was so great to chat with you too.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode and the conversation I had with Francesca. It was really fun and exciting for me to be able to speak to her because I've been listening to her podcast for so long, and I really admire her career that she has built and all that she does. And yeah, that's somebody who's been doing that for 20 years. It's always so wonderful to have somebody you can look towards who's been doing this work for longer than I have, because they have a lot of experience and wisdom that they can share. For example, if I'm going through a challenging time in my business, or if I feel like, how do I know if I need to hire an assistant, those kind of things, it's good to hear from somebody who's kind of been there and gone through that already. Thank you, Francesca, for coming on and sharing your stories and your experiences and your wisdom. I really, really enjoyed our conversation. I hope you go check out her website and Instagram and offering as well. Everything will be on the show notes. Before I let you go, I do want to say that the mentorship program for yoga teachers that I host every year, the application is now open. The link to the application will be on the show notes, so please go check that out. If you have any questions, you can always message me. I love hearing from my listeners. So you can always message me on Instagram. That's where I'm most active on social media. My handle is at Reika Yoga, ReikaYoga. Or you can message me through my website, www.reikayoga.com. If you can rate, review, star, subscribe from whatever platform you're listening from, like if you're listening from YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening from Spotify, give me 5 stars, and whatever else other platform do. Anything you do is going to be super helpful. And most importantly, share this podcast, share this episode with somebody that you think will also benefit. Maybe your fellow yoga teacher friends, or maybe you're a yoga teacher. Feel free to share this episode and this podcast with them. If you have somebody that you want to recommend for me to interview, I would love to get some recommendations for yoga teachers that I can interview all over the world, not only United States. I love to be able to speak to a variety of people, a variety of yoga teachers. So I'm trying to get to 100 yoga teachers that I interview. Right now, I'm at like 68 or something like that. So I need more yoga teachers. So let me know. You can always recommend somebody to me who's been doing this for a long time, who have a interesting and inspiring story to share. So that is it. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll speak to you next week.